by those who took an oath to protect and serve. And yet, Mr. Speaker, I am sure that it is not lost upon us that when we sit quietly in our homes and in our thoughts, and that as history has shown us time and time again, that the day of reckoning will come. The day of reckoning always comes, Mr. Speaker. But again, Mr. Speaker, and at the risk of being accused of exhorting a sermon like my colleagues on the opposite side of the House, I want to admonish us that they that sow the wind reap the whirlwind. And as the speaker preceding me referenced flour in what can only be seen as a very crass remark, given the fact that my colleague would have just lost his mother. The stalk has no head. It will produce no flour. Were it to yield grain, foreigners would swallow it up. Speaking, those are actually the words of the Bible. Those are actually the words of the Bible. And so, Mr. Speaker, it admonishes us that were it to bear fruit, foreigners will swallow it up. And as I'm speaking about foreigners, Mr. Speaker, I want to register my disappointment at the failure of the 2020 budget to set out a coherent and comprehensive vision for Guyana's foreign policy. Mr. Speaker, the framing of foreign policy is indispensable for the modern state. This is even more the case for small developing states such as ours. And our foreign policy here in Guyana must perform the delicate balance of balancing the national interests whilst acknowledging our interdependence in an ever-contracting global village. National development, Mr. Speaker, takes place within the context of foreign policy. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, one would have expected that the current government would seize the earliest opportunity to clarify its foreign policy positions to the people of Guyana. And clarify they must, Mr. Speaker, if for no other reason, sir, than the fact that we have witnessed in our very recent past unprecedented levels of interference by foreign powers in our last national and regional elections. The obviously biased, Mr. Speaker, and at times downright disrespectful utterances have not gone unnoticed by Guyanese. But far more disturbing, Mr. Speaker, far more disturbing is the silence of these same foreign powers over the last few tumultuous weeks in our existence. And as most right-thinking Guyanese, Mr. Speaker, I'm forced to ask, I'm forced to wonder whether this is the desired state of affairs for our beloved nation. Mr. Speaker, it is to be recalled that it was the David Granger-led administration which advanced the matter of the resolution of the Guyana-Venezuela dispute, the farthest it has ever reached on the road to a final settlement at the International Criminal Court of Justice. And in this regard, Mr. Speaker, we welcome the commitment to a bipartisan approach to this matter. We are also pleased, Mr. Speaker, to see the current administration express its interest in protecting Guyana's sovereignty. But were I a prognosticator, Mr. Speaker, I could venture to say that given recent developments, this commitment is one that will be severely tested in the coming months. As a citizen of Guyana, Mr. Speaker, the recent foreign policy actions by the PPPC-led administration is cause for grave concern. From its departure from the time-honored international conventions, as is evidenced by Guyana's support of the U.S. candidate for the presidency to the IDB, to the fear of our citizenry that Guyana is about to be inserted front and center, Mr. Speaker, in U.S. geopolitical engagement. Mr. Speaker, our people deserve answers. We are expecting, sir, the highest ranking U.S. official to visit our soil. But this visit, Mr. Speaker, seems to be shrouded in secrecy. In secrecy, Mr. Speaker, the people of Guyana have no agenda. Have no idea what the agenda for this meeting is. The people of Guyana we have no idea as to what this visit will cost taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, it begs the question, why is this visit shrouded in such secrecy? Mr. Speaker, we want to admonish that as a small developing nation, we have to ensure that we do not become entangled in the geopolitical interventions that can be detrimental to the people of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, the people of Guyana deserve answers. What is it that we agreed to? What is it that was promised? And how does any action on our part have deleterious consequences on our case currently before the International Criminal Court of Justice? Mr. Speaker, we deserve answers. We fear we are beginning to witness, Mr. Speaker, a departure from the consistency in positions taken at the United Nations by the APNU+AFC government, and a return to the very erratic, Mr. Speaker, voting patterns which characterize our pre-2015 international engagements. Mr. Speaker, Guyana has gained much by establishing itself as a reliable partner in regional and hemispheric stability. It would be unwise, Mr. Speaker, for us to depart from this form of diplomacy. Mr. Speaker, the strengthening of Guyana's multilateral diplomacy and the improvement of the regional and hemispheric international presence depends not only on sound policy, but also on the caliber of our foreign service personnel. It is our view, Mr. Speaker, that the study of our international relations and the understanding of our national interests and the practice of our diplomacy should not be left to chance. Our foreign service personnel are on the forefront of the actualization of our foreign policy. And it was with this in mind, Mr. Speaker, that the APNU+AFC coalition government re-engineered and re-established the Foreign Services Institute, which was for all intents and purposes, sir, put on hold and allowed to fossilize, under the PPPC administration. The aim is to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that Guyana is equipped with a corps of edified and competent diplomats. Mr. Speaker, we are proud of the fact that we have been able to assemble a multi-ethnic cadre of ambassadors, truly reflective, sir, of our multi-ethnic makeup. Mr. Speaker, we remember with alarm some years ago hearing a senior functionary of the PPPC say under oath that there were no Afro-Guyanese qualified to be ambassadors. Mr. Speaker, they were proven wrong. And so all of Guyana now waits with bated breath to see what our ambassadorial appointments will look like. Mr. Speaker, the tenure of the APNU+AFC government was characterized by a steady...
Honorable Member, before you continue, you will need an extension to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I do ask for 5 minutes for the honorable member to conclude our presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, you can
Thank you,
continue.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, our approach to foreign policy has been steady and studied. And for the record, sir, I wish to record, time is now against me, and so I cannot be exhausted, some of the accomplishments as it relates to the foreign relations. Mr. Speaker, it was the APNU+AFC government that identified Guyana's chairmanship of the Group of 77 in China as a strategic priority, and which has resulted in Guyana's ascension to the chairmanship of the G77 in January of this year. Mr. Speaker, it is the APNU+AFC-led administration that established as a discrete unit within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Bilateral Affairs Department, and which has over the last few years, sir, concluded a number of bilateral agreements, including for the establishment of diplomatic missions in the United Arab Emirates and Ghana. Mr. Speaker, cognizant of our ever-increasing prominence on the international stage, and being committed to the promotion of international law and order, the APNU+AFC, over the course of its 5 years in office, will have ratified or acceded to over 25 multilateral treaties in the important areas of environmental justice, the protection of children, the protection of the marine environment, and international shipping. And as I'm on the topic of the marine environment and international shipping, Mr. Speaker, I must say that given the anticipated growth in maritime traffic as a result of increased offshore activity, we would have hoped to see in this budget, sir, some emphasis being placed on strategic planning within the maritime sector. Mr. Speaker, we wish to strongly recommend that maritime spatial planning be given urgent priority in the immediate term, as there is need for a cross-cutting policy tool which will enable a strategic and integrated approach to the management of our maritime space. We wish to strongly urge, Mr. Speaker, the commissioning of a national maritime and port sector master plan. Such a plan will serve to strengthen the internal competitiveness of the maritime and port sectors. I hope that the Honorable Bishop Edgell is taking note. Mr. Speaker, under the APNU+AFC coalition government, the aviation sector soared to new heights. Guyana, as a state party to the Chicago Convention, has achieved record compliance with the requirements of the Treaty on the Convention, on Civil Aviation. Guyana's level of effective implementation, sir, in 2015 stood at a mere 44%. Today, we are at 74.4%, far above the global average of 60%. And I would venture to say, Mr. Speaker, that this should address the Honorable member, the Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, as it relates to expenditure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, such a level of effective implementation could never be achieved unless one hired competent personnel, sir, and spent money on improving the aviation and air services infrastructure in Guyana. Mr. Speaker, this accomplishment has earned Guyana the ICAO Council President certificate for being one of the 10 most progressive states in aviation. Mr. Speaker, if there ever were a sector that is ripe for a bipartisan approach, it is the civil aviation sector. I know of no person here who, when he gets on a plane, say he is of nefarious intent, Mr. Speaker, who is not interested in arriving safely to his destination. We therefore need at all times, Mr. Speaker, the best people for the job. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want to note the stellar achievement, another stellar achievement, the commissioning of a civil aviation master plan that has provided Guyana, sir, with a 20-year strategic plan for the seamless development of the civil aviation sector. Finally, in closing, sir, I wish to say that as a new entrant into the field of politics, I chose the multi-platform of the APNU+AFC APNU+AFC coalition because I believed then that it represented Guyana's most positive steps towards an inclusionary democracy. I am now sure, Mr. Speaker, that I made the right choice. Very sure, Mr. Speaker, that I made the right choice. Mr. Speaker, I will say the time for pettiness, the time for the winner-takes-all paradigm that has come to characterize our politics, is the time for that, sir, is over. Mr. Speaker, the time for race-based politics in Guyana is over. The people of Guyana deserve better, Mr. Speaker. I wish to say that Isaiah Henry deserved better, Mr. Speaker. I wish to say that Joel Henry deserved better, sir. And certainly Mr. Harrison deserved better. And so today, sir, I add my voice to the clarion call for justice for our sons. May their sentence death, sir, ever serve as a memorial to our failure. To our failure, sir. One that reminds us every day. One that demands of us every day, sir, that we forge a better Guyana. Mr. Speaker, we can and we must. I thank you, sir.